Now, yes, we are live. So it is time for me to hand over the charge to the president, who conveniently happens to be myself. So, yeah, thank you, Sergeant at Arms. And it is great to take over as president. I'm not about to explain everything all over again, don't worry. But yes, we have to introduce a few people. Distinguished Toastmaster Abrarwani, if you would introduce yourself, although everyone knows you, but it's kind of a formality.
Thank you very much. Well, this is Abrar Ahmed Wani, and I am Division 3 Director. Right now, currently, I'm on my bed. I'm just enjoying because last 2 days was very hectic. For the course too, I was making all the arrangements, and I just saw the message, and I thought, why not to join this individual because I've seen that there's an education session kind of a technical discussion will happen, and this is something important to listen. So that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DTM Abrar. Thank you for joining. And yes, you're not at all, uh, I mean, there's nothing wrong with you being in bed. All normal people at this point in time are in bed. No worries there. And Toastmaster Farhan Gauri, I think this is your first meeting as a bona fide member of Quantum Deep. If you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, I am Farhan Gauri. I am a software engineer, and I have a multiple backgrounds in profession. But I have a software company in Pakistan, and out of my interest, I have been a lawyer and a pilot, and mechanical engineer as well, and I have been a professor. I'm a reader, etc. So I'm living in UK, Birmingham, with my wife and kids. So it is like 6 a.m. So this is why I'm not in the condition to put the camera on. So I also saw I woke up just now and saw something that I found very interesting. So I just want to learn something. That's why I'm here.
Thank you, Toastmaster Farhan. Now that you are a member, um, you ideally should be participating in meetings, whether you find anything interesting or not. Looking
Yeah,
forward.
most of the time I want to be in the
Yeah,
part of the
I
meeting,
know.
but
I know it's not the
it's always
easiest.
6 a.m. So it is always hard every time.
It's not the easiest for you. We acknowledge that, and but do try to participate, and we are waiting for your. One thing could be that you could join an hour later, especially for your projects. Instead of your 6 a.m., you can join at 7 a.m. to deliver
Mhm.
projects and everything. But again, yeah, I know it's not easy at all. So thank you for joining. And Toastmaster Iram, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, this is Iram Manan, and I am from the Zenith Toastmasters Club. And I'm recently joined Toastmasters. I have taken the membership from the month of Jan. And by profession, I am a software engineer. I'm managing a project as a software development manager. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Iram. And Toastmaster Amr, your introduction, please.
Thank you so much, DTM Tala. Well, if I talk about my Toastmasters journey, so I joined Karachi Toastmasters Club in November. Yes, I very dedicatedly join in-person sessions there, but for last 1.5 months, I am on bed because of my ankle surgery. Well, by profession, I am an educator. I'm working in the Citizens Foundation. Currently, my role is as a project head. I'm working there for strategic alignment across the education programs. So yeah, thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Amra, for joining. We have our friend, Dr. Faizan Ali. Dr. Faizan, please introduce yourself for those who are meeting you for the first time.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Fazan Ali and working currently as a product liaison manager in Bayer Healthcare. Uh, and my roles and responsibilities are basically to disseminate the clinical data to the healthcare professionals throughout. I'm just covering half of the Punjab. So that's all about me. Thank you.
Great to have you, Dr. Faizan, once again. And
Thank
so
you.
let's get the meeting going. And of course, I happen to be the TMOD as well. So again, no handing over and taking over. The theme of today's meeting is the science of management. And if you think about it, each and every one of us is a manager. We are managing our lives. Even if we run away screaming from the very mention of the concept management, we are in charge of our lives. We are leading our lives. We are leading our families. We are leading ourselves. Heaven knows, I don't know whether it's, uh, I should even say or not, whether it's safe to say or not, but there are several people living right here inside my head. And there are constant voices and pulling ourselves in different directions. So, even if you don't have anyone else to manage, you are managing yourself. Similarly, we manage our journeys. Think about it. How much calculation does it take every time we go to work, wherever we work or whatever we do? It takes a whole lot of calculation. We need to get up at a certain time, do our morning rituals throughout, and all the while managing and worrying about the traffic, the patterns, what day of the week it is. For example, in Karachi, for some inexplicable reason, the roads are much more crowded on Mondays. I don't know, the people who come out in droves on Monday mornings, where do they go for the rest of the week? I don't know. But that remains true. Similarly, Saturday afternoons are a nightmare to leave home for any shopping because the roads are crowded. And that's just true for Karachi. Every city's dynamics are different. Similarly, we are managing our families, our even we are managing our bosses, our seniors. So whether we know it or not, even when we cross a road, we are doing a whole lot of calculations. Our brains are going like supercomputers, calculating the distances, the speeds, the expected time through which would take us to cross the road, the relative speeds of the vehicles, and think about it. Even a Toastmasters meeting is a calculation. Let me just give you an idea how much calculation is required. First of all, the role players, the certain number of role players that needs to be arranged, and then the members and their respective educational journeys. For example, if someone wants a speech, where they are in their pathways, right? And if a club is actually to achieve distinguished during a year, how many speeches does it need throughout the year? I made a whole set of equations around it, and I would have shared it, but then you know you guys would have doubted my sanity even more than you do currently. So I have no plans to do those, but yes, there are equations that govern because the set of variables. If a club meets fortnightly like ours, and if it has two projects in every meeting, that means that throughout the year it has 24 meetings and uh, it has potentially 48 projects. If you look at the club success plan of Toastmasters, how many level ones, how many level twos, how many level threes you break down. And it's not just enough to have the required number of speeches. The same members need to keep doing the speeches in order to progress and score points on the DCP. And then, if you're falling short, then perhaps a speakathon would be a good idea. So, several clubs hold a speakathon because they have quite a number of speakers who are eager to give speeches. But this also helps those clubs score more points in a shorter amount of time on the DCP, on the club success plan, because all those members are actually scoring. And then there's a whole question of the other DCP points. So, yeah, even the club success in Toastmasters is not an accident. For example, the recommended strength is 20 members. If you have four speakers, that means you have four speakers and four evaluators. Those are eight Toastmasters occupied. Then you have grammarian, R counter, listener, and timer, four more members. Then you have the big four roles. In Pakistan, at least, we do have table topics evaluator as well. So TMOD, journal evaluator, table topics evaluator, and table topics master. Those make 4. That makes 12. If there are 4 table topics speakers, that means 4 speakers, 4 evaluators, 4 major role players, 4 minor role players, 16. And if we have 4 table topic speakers, that makes an even 20. So that is just one of the calculations. But at the same time, you don't want all 20 of your members to give speeches simultaneously, because that would mean, and there's the fundamental flaw, or I would say a shortcoming in the way Toastmasters clubs have been conceived. If there are 20 members, and imagine they're all eager to give projects, what does that mean? Even if you budget 5 speeches per meeting, right, that would mean that it would take 4 meetings to get through the entire portfolio. And that means if you're speaking today, your next turn will be 5 meetings later. If it's a fortnightly club, do the math. It will be more than 2 months. So yeah, that also means that it is good to break patterns to ensure real progress. So uh, with that bit of project management, uh, let me just introduce the segments of the meeting. The first would be, of course, our keynote, which will be 20 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A. It is the art and science of project management. After that, we will have 2 prepared speeches. The first would be Toastmaster Anam Qadri. The second would be DTM Sarfraz, if you're willing to go ahead with your project, sir. Followed by Geek of the Week, which will be 5 to 7 minutes. And after that, table topics session, which will be followed by journal evaluation. So without further ado, let me introduce the language evaluator for today, Toastmaster Amra Yunus. Please introduce the word of the day and also your role. Over to you, Toastmaster Amra.
Thank you so much. Yes, so word of the day is efficacious. Efficacious means it is coming from efficiency, efficient, and it is an adjective that can be used this way, like efficacious habit, efficacious project, efficacious method, or efficacious workflow. We may use it this way, that the project success went up due to the efficacious workflow used. Yeah. So I would write in the chat as well the word and the possible uses, some of the examples. Yes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Amra. And of course, the timer would be my window. I'll be doing the timing through an automated method that we use at WordWise. And now, without further ado, it is time for me to introduce our keynote speaker. She just introduced herself. She is a newish Toastmaster, but already she's making her mark as a speaker in the Toastmasters world. So everyone, put your hands together for Toastmaster Iram Hanan, the art and science of project management. The art and science of project management, Toastmaster Iram Hanan.
Thank you so much, DTM Talha, for introducing me. At Toastmasters, we practice the communication and leadership skills, which is quite essential for the project managers and is the topmost priority for the other skill sets as well. Those who are doing job either in the leadership positions or as a software engineer, these are the topmost skills which is essential for everyone. Today's session is a little bit different, and we will be looking into the art and science of project management, that how theoretically a project can be managed. And I hope that if everyone remains focused for the upcoming 10 to 15 minutes, you do not need to go through any manuals, references, or books. But in fact, these 15 minutes theoretical concepts will be sufficient enough to understand that how a project can be managed theoretically and what are the steps. If I just look behind about the Careem applications. How many of you use the Careem application? For your daily travelings, DTM Talha used. Similarly, we have the other softwares. The other ones also used. TM Amra also raised the hand. We have so many other softwares, like the Yango or the Daraz application. The management of these software applications is a big task. And sometimes it becomes hurdles for the project managers that how to start the project. Which methodology they have to use to complete the project from the start up to the last stage. And there are so many other technologies and methodologies to initiate a project and to complete a project. But in today's session, we will be specifically looking into the traditional project management. That how we can initiate a project in a traditional project management way and how we can move towards its closure. Let's dig into the step-by-step procedures. The first step is the requirement gathering and analysis part. Here we gather the complete requirement of the project. Let's assume an e-commerce application. They have to gather the requirement for the upfront 1 year planning. That what they would like to do. What will be the essentials of the e-commerce application? Would they like to introduce a debit card or the payment integrations? Would they like to involve a cash on delivery options? Or similarly, any other payment gateway, maybe the EasyPaisa or the JazzCash integrations. The most important feature of any e-commerce application is add to cart or delete from the cart. And similarly, how we can place the reorder. So these are the essentials requirement gathering for any project. A project manager is generally involved in the very first stage at the requirement gathering. They gather the requirements, they analyze the requirements, and they perform the analysis. That how can we proceed? After gathering the complete requirement, they move towards the scope log. A scope log with the client, with the internal or the external stakeholders to avoid making changes in future. So the most crucial part is that they have to log the scope. Once the scope is logged, they generally move towards the design part. They document it the very first stage, and after that they move towards the design part. During that design, they have the architectural design, the technical design document, that how technically these things can be achieved. Whatever has been mentioned in the document in written form or in words, how it can be achieved. Similarly, the design in terms of the user interfaces, that how it will look like. The aesthetics, will it grab the attention of the customers? Is it easier to use for the end users? Even if the Daraz application is being used by a 7-year-old kid, he can easily understand that what he needs to do. And if it is being used by an old age person, he can understand it. Where is the add to cart button? So the design in terms of the technicality, the architectural design, and similarly in terms of the aesthetics. They perform every design part
and document it, close it. Again, at each and every step, they are moving towards locking the scope. And they do not have the privilege to look back. If the requirement gathering part is completely closed, they can't reopen it again. And if they have to reopen it, it's a little bit a flaw or a gap in the first stage. Once the requirement gathering part is complete and the design part is complete as well, they can finally move towards the development part. That how they can be developed. Actual working start from here. So one of the key factor is that from last 1 month or maybe from last couple of months, the project managers and the team was continuously involved in the documentation part only. They were continuously gathering the requirements, performing the analysis, performing the design part, thinking about the design part, but actual development doesn't start yet. It was just the documentation part or the written manuals involved in it. The actual work starts from here. That what do they have to do at this stage? And after the development, how it will look like, what the user will see, whatever they have thought, whatever they have thought in the previous stages, and document it, how it will look like. And once they are done with the complete development part, they finally move towards its testing. To make sure that whatever they have done, is it really fulfilling the client's requirement? Is it up to the mark? All the cases that have been gathered at the very first stage, is this have been developed? So the testing involves other things as well. Sometimes it involves the functional testing or the non-functional testing, that how the functionality is working. The non-functionality testing involves that how the aesthetics works. Is it easy to use or not? Once we are done with all these stages, we finally move towards the deployment. Deployment involves that whatever you did in the past 2, 3, or 4 months, you have to deploy it to the client, either on the client server, or if it's mobile application, like the Careem or the e-commerce Draas, you just deploy it for the end users. You take the responses, that which type of the responses you are getting from the client or the customers or the end users. Sometimes it has the positive responses, sometimes it has the negative responses. You get the complete feedback from the users, and you try to accommodate those feedbacks in order to improve the applications. There are few gaps in the traditional project management. Can somebody guess what are the loopholes? Anyone from the audience?
Knowledge gap of the users or lack of understanding?
Exactly. There is a knowledge gap of the users, and sometimes lack of understanding as well. Somebody is unmute.
Dr. Faizan said gathering the right information.
Gathering right information, exactly. And gathering right information at the very first stage is quite critical. The main part is you are trying to get the complete information at the very first stage, and you are trying to lock the scope as well. So the loophole is it might be possible that you may miss some of the requirements. And what happens if you miss some of the requirements? You have to go back to the previous stages and follow the same step again and again. It's a long cycle. Second, if you miss or forget something at the very initial stage, so you have to wait for a long time until it deploys somewhere. In the middle of the processes, you are not getting the client's feedback. You are not deploying for the end users to get their feedback. After maybe 6 months, 8 months, or the 1 year of the time duration, you are going to achieve few of the surprises that what is missing in it, what is missing here, and how it can be improved. So the loophole is that you have to wait for a long time. A communication and the collaboration in the middle steps is not present. Similarly, we have the other issues as well. Client doesn't know that what he will get after the 8 months of the time duration, and he is continuously putting the financials or the investment over here. So the trust factor, a lot of the investment factors are there. Clients are not supposed to invest a huge amount, and they are not getting the output very frequently. Just because of these loopholes, it is not being used currently in many of the organizations. And organizations continuously moving towards the agility, the concept of agile, that how the traditional project management can be overcome by following the agile principles or the values. How can we deliver the fast responses to the client and fulfill the client's requirement through the minimum viable product? It must contain at least the basic features so that the client can get the idea what he will be receiving after a huge amount of time. The adaptability is another factor which is missing in the traditional project management. People are not adopting the changes very frequently. They are trying to lock the scope. Once you lock the scope, it means you are not allowed to change or bring any modifications. Similarly, the other factors are there as well. Can somebody guess what are the other factors? TM Ejaz raised the hand. Can you please share?
Yes, the time to market could be one thing because in our
Exactly.
fast-moving world, there are a lot of changes happening. And if you're not up to the mark, there's a chance you would be losing all that market capital, market clients as well.
Exactly. Because you have locked the scope for the 6 months, for the 8 months, and during that time duration, if the technology is rapidly evolving, you are not going to adopt it. Let's consider the example of the e-commerce application. The client says you have to introduce the debit card only, but in the middle, when the development starts, there was an era of the HBL Quick Pay or the HBL Connect application. So client may ask you to introduce the HBL Connect as well in the e-commerce application, but you are just going to negotiate with the client on the basis of the requirement gathering. No, that wasn't there at the time of the requirement gathering. We are not going to introduce it urgently, of course. You have to again follow the same cycle. So you are lacking behind while the technology is continuously evolving. The adaptability factor, the time to share the responses for the technology evolution, these things are entirely missing from here. We can't discuss the agility, of course, over here in a short amount of time, but definitely we will cover in any other sessions that how the agile project management has overcome these pitfalls of the traditional project management. And even the traditional is continuously being used in many of the organizations because of the nature set of the project. It's not necessary that we must use the agile always or everywhere, but we have to use agile based on the requirements, based on the client's demands, and of course the other factors as well, the technology evolutions. This is all about that how we have connected the project management with the leadership and the communication skills along with the technical skills as well that which staffs really need to follow on day-to-day basis. Do we have any questions or the queries from the audience? Anyone? It's TM Amra. Can you please unmute? Yeah.
So we just talked about agile as well, and of course, some other time it will be more elaborated. But initially, what are the parameters that make you switch to any of the methods of project management, like traditional and agile? If you just one or two, if you could.
Can you please repeat what are the parameters to
switch from traditional to agile?
One of the key parameters to switch from traditional towards the agile is if you do not have the complete requirements at the very beginning, and if you think that your customer is little bit shaky that what he would like to achieve, so it's better that you have to move the client towards the agility concept. That yes, because the agile provides you the flexibility to bring any modifications in the middle. And you do not need to lock the scope at the very early stage while following the agile principles or the values or the project management methodology. So that is the first concept, that if your client is unsure about the requirements, you do not have the complete requirements at the very initial stage, it's better to follow the agile instead of following the traditional practices. So that is one of the reasons. There can be other reasons as well. Anyone else?
And Dr. Faizan has asked, what is the key step in the success of a project?
The key steps are gathering the correct informations or the right informations. That is the first step. Because if you just miss any of the requirements in the initial stages, you may not be successful and your project may not be successful as well. So the first step is the requirement gathering. And if you can't gather the complete requirement at the very initial stage, again, the requirements are not clarified. So it's better to adopt the agile. And continuously, you can evolve the project time to time. You can collaborate with the customers. And by having the collaboration and the communication, you can have the feedback from the customers as well, that what they are thinking to bring any modifications for the successful project. And you can accommodate all those feedback. That is another case study that we can do during the project management for the success of the project, that we can continuously take the feedback from the customers. We can adopt the minimum viable product concept. It's not mandatory to deploy the complete Careem application at once. Instead of all at once, we can just divide into the multiple features. For example, when the Careem launched the application, there were minimum possible options that you can opt on that time. But right now, they have a lot of the flexibility for the customers. Like you can send the messages, you can have the in-app chat notifications, and the other features. The proximity of the location, the accuracy of the location is quite fine at this moment in contrast to the previous days. So you can go with the minimum viable product, take the feedback from the customers at how many features they would like to involve in it. how we can facilitate the customer. So these are the key parameters which can be adopted time to time for the success of a project. I think we have one more question from DTM Talha.
Yes, actually, your allotted time is ended just now. So we have further allotted 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So I would like to ask you a question, and maybe after that, if someone else wants to. So it's more of a rant, and I'd like to share a recent experience at my workplace. We had a new training program developed, and it required a new digital platform for hosting, right? So we defined the parameters of the program, what we wanted out of it. It's basically a program where uh, online sessions take place. The training itself themselves are not automated; they're live, but through online sessions. People register, they make the payment, they register for a course, and then they, give a test and obtain a certificate, right? So that's all it is. There are different bundles and different tracks. One of the inspirations was Toastmaster Pathways because we created different tracks exactly in line with Pathways. Now, what happened was that the whole idea about the program was developed. I even created mock-ups of what the website will look like, right? And we gave them to the developer, and the developer then started developing. And when they submitted what they considered to be the finished website, unfortunately, it was subject to a review by our boss, and he acted as if he was seeing everything for the first time, even though he had okayed everything previously. And yes, some of the things also changed because our understanding evolved along with the project implementation. New scenario arose. For example, I'm talking about bundles. These bundles did not exist in their current form in the beginning, but they evolved because the developers also gave their input about the user friendliness and everything. So how does one address that? Because the end result was that the project got delayed by 3 months and the cost ballooned by at least 50%. So what can one do in, especially people like me, who are not very technical and who just have a concept in mind? How do we bridge that gap between what we plan and what actually comes out, and how do we anticipate that what changes may take place, and what the developer, or in this case the project manager, should do in order to build this headroom into the timelines and the costs?
Yeah. So first factor is, again, you can just take the prototype from the developers at the very initial stage. Instead of thinking about the complete development, logically, technically, the functionality wise, you can just take the prototyping, that how the application will look like, right? Without any making major changes in it. That is the first step. Because once you have the prototyping, you can at least execute it. You can move from one screen towards another screen. That can give you a clue that do you really want to make any changes? So your boss can get the idea in the initial 3 weeks. Instead of wasting time for the 4 months or the 5 months and completing the entire development cycle and getting the final reviews from the boss after the 4 months, it's better to take the reviews in the initial 3 weeks. Just give them the time of the 3 week slot to share a prototyping. This is what Agile says. You do not have to invest a huge amount of time. If you think that your target is not being achieved in the initial 3 weeks, so you have to just raise the alarm from the initial weeks and save the time and the cost. If you just do with the traditional project management, you have to wait for a long time. And it will definitely be a cost and the time efforts which will be wasted. So you have to reduce the wastage. Cut the time short, take the feedback, and take the decision at the very initial stage. That is the first step. I think the time is, again, it's going to be end. And I can discuss some more details with you, definitely one-to-one. And I will definitely elaborate you for this answer as well.
Oh,
thank you so much, Nitin Kala, for giving me a chance to present a keynote session. Thank you everyone for your questions, queries, and patience to listen and to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it was extremely educational for all of us, and particularly for myself. Thank you so much. And uh, everyone, you're free to share comments or further questions in the chat box. We will move on to the next segment, which will be the prepared speeches. And let's get a few administrative things out of the way. First of all, we need a lead evaluator for the next project because our originally allotted lead evaluator is missing in action. So who would like to evaluate Toastmaster Anam's project? And no, before you ask.
I am available.
Okay, DTM Abrar, you're ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, absolutely perfect. Toastmaster Anam, do you have your evaluation sheet with you? Let me share it with you, DTM Abrar. It's reflect on your path, right? So, Toastmaster Anam, which pathway are you reflecting upon?
It's engaging humor.
Engaging. Okay. So, Toastmaster Abrar, let me, yeah, I'm just sending you the evaluation sheet via WhatsApp. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. And what will happen is that DTM Abrar will introduce the project. What's the title of your project, Toastmaster Anam?
You're talking about it's reflect on your path. You're
No,
talking about the
it's
project. Okay?
Yeah, the title of the speech.
Who am I right now?
Okay. Was that a question or was that the title of your speech?
No, it's the title. Who am I right now?
Okay. Okay. So, DTM Abrar, along with you will also host a panel evaluation, and your panel evaluators for this project will be auditory evaluation will be done by Toastmaster Aram, right? For 1 minute, you will be asked to comment upon the auditory aspect, the voice, the volume, right? After the main evaluation, I'll be doing the visual evaluation. Perceptible will be Toastmaster Srijita Singh, and her question demonstrated that she had already read the agenda. Bingo. And finally, structural and language evaluation will be done by DTM Sarfaraz. So the way we'll go about it is that I'll hand over the floor now to DTM Abrar. He'll introduce the project. The speech will take place, and after that, DTM Abrar will open with his own evaluation and then hand over to the panel evaluators one by one. For his help, I'll be noting down the names of the panel evaluators in the chat box as well. Is that okay, DTM Abrar?
Yes, that's okay.
All right.
That's very fine.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. DTM Anam Kadri will present her speech from the pathway Humorous Engaging Humor. The purpose statement of her speech is the purpose of this project for the member is to reflect on her pathway, that actually got growth during the completion of entire path. The purpose of the speech is for the member to share some aspect of her growth during the completion of a path. As an evaluator, what I will note, well, whether this member is completing the last speech has completed all relevant factors, the member may speak on any aspect of the journey completed. The speech may be persuasive, humorous, informative, the speech content. Thank you very much. Over to you, DTM Talha bin Hamid.
Okay, the Toastmaster Anam, can you see the timing window? It's the Karachi Toastmasters Club window.
Yes, now I do.
All right. Everyone put your hands together for Toastmaster Anam Kadri. Who am I right now? Who am I right now, Toastmaster Anam Kadri?
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, almost 3 years back, I had this choice of choosing a pathway, which was something that I had to work on. because this is the route that I take to build up the pressure to work on those capabilities that I was lacking in, or in fact, that I need to work in. And for that, I chose the pathway engaging humor. Humor doesn't come naturally to anyone. If it does, that means you are the talented person, you have those skills. And these are the divine skills that are given to only some of the people. Likewise, I too had to do a lot of struggle to incorporate humor in my speeches. I went in with a lot of contests, with a lot of speeches before that. I had actually completed a pathway, but this was the factor that I had always struggled to work with. Engaging something humor in my speech was like taking an entire atomic bomb and fitting it into a little box. It was that difficult for me. So I took up this challenge and I decided that this through pathway, I will get the option of developing my characteristic, of developing these skills so that it would be easier for me to talk to. Plus, whenever I went out into different gatherings, this was that one point that kept me behind. While I was struggling through different dialogues and different statements, talking to the people, so that I come up with a few puns, so I come up with something humorous that people get attracted to my speech, that they want to listen to me. And during this struggle only, the conversation ended, and I kept standing silently at the back, still thinking how to divert that conversation so that people may notice my presence as well through humor. So with the first level, I gave my icebreaker. That icebreaker was supposed to be my life story. And just imagine how easy it is to comment on your life, to comment on your family members. Humor comes very naturally regarding that. When you're talking about your husband, your kids, your own self, because it's easy to talk that way. That's a very comfortable zone when you're talking about mocking them, when you are talking about engaging them as a humor perspective. And naturally, I did. But we are not that many family members that even if I had incorporated their presence and their personalities in 5 to 7 speeches, I was done with all the family members that I had around. The safe ones who I know that would listen to me, they will enjoy the humor, and ultimately they won't feel bad about that. Well, you can go beyond the horizons, but then there are always chances that you will get to hear something in return as well. So I stopped there right after my ultimate family members. And that was a time when I thought about what to speak about even further. So ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, what the next thought comes into my mind? My workplace. Why did I thought about that before? And then the next 3 to 4 speeches were spent. Obviously, it's never enough to speak about your workplace, especially when you are actually putting those loose ends in front of someone. So that came up naturally as well. And that was when I thought maybe this pathway is not that difficult to speak about than it seemed to be. And then I realized that as you move on with the pathways and you start reading those evaluation sheets, you get to develop those skills naturally. The thoughts come into your mind. So after the first icebreaker, which I later rephrased and appeared for it in the international speech as well, the contest that we had, we appeared for that as well. I moved on to the next ones and the next ones, until I was up to my elective projects. And during that time, by that time, I had taken part in a few contests as well. in which I had incorporated my students. Since I am a teacher by profession, so it's very easy to talk about your students and to talk about the fellow teachers, because there is always a mixed blend of all the personalities, and it's very captivating. Even if we go about with one personality at a time, it's a lot of humor to talk about. So yes, I made a lot of speech. I did a lot of speeches. I sang a lot of songs. I even wrote poetry, and that was humor poetry on some of the students. So you can imagine, from the person who would barely think about humor at the spur of the moment, I had evolved by the end of my third level. I had evolved into a person who was actually writing poetry on the humor of my students, on the behavior of my students. So this is how I moved on further. And once I was done with my workplace and I started thinking more about it, and then things came up into my mind. And naturally, when you get to develop those characteristics, the entire world opens up in front of you with new topics, with new venues to talk about. And that is when I left the personalities and I moved on to the inmate objects, like my car, like my result, like my room, like many of the such things. I talked about them, and that too in a humor way. How my car broke down, what was the characteristics that led to it, how I faced the people. So this was all that I learned gradually and slowly. Naturally, I had opted for a project, for a manual that was leading me to the HPL, the high performance level. And I had to go for that as well. With this pathway and with the HPL project on the way, I moved on to a panel discussion. I held a panel discussion with one of the senior member of Ferguson, AF Ferguson. He was a very senior man, very decent. It was like, when you are talking about someone of seniority, obviously you think twice before speaking something out, especially when you are trying to incorporate humor in your speeches, in your pathways. Because that is when you need to slow yourself down and you have to move within your parameters that doesn't offend the person in front of you as well. As I said earlier, with family members, you can go either way. They won't be getting offended anyway. So it was a bit difficult for me. That was a bit challenging for me to come up with the questions and then the text. But then by the end, I found him smiling over my questions. I found him smiling over my comments. And later on, he actually enjoyed it. Well, he said he enjoyed it. So I am assuming that he didn't say it just to give me a little heart. But yes, he was very genuine regarding that. So I enjoyed it as well. And this gave me a new perspective, that even while talking to people of seniority, even while talking to people of a high designation, you can talk humor. Being within your parameters, being within decency, you can talk to them and you can engage them well. That was the HPL project that gave me a lot of lessons. And then I came up with the next speech about how I learned a lot of lessons in my life. And this is where I stand. Today, I know who I am. Today, I can proudly say that, yes, I can engage humor. I can talk to people nicely, decently. I can talk to people with seniority as well. Those people who are very serious. Those people who don't seem like they would be laughing at your comment, but it's not difficult to talk with them that way. It has gotten easier for me. This path had not been very easy for me. but gradually, with the little pebbles that came into this unwinding route, I picked each one of those pebbles separately to clear my path. And ultimately, the path cleared. It's just the way how we do it, how we think about it, and how we portray it. Today, I know who I am, and I know how to engage humor in my speeches. Thank you so much. Over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anam. Over to you, DTM Abrar, for the evaluation session.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to engage all my evaluators. So I'll request to kindly please highlight. And well, pardon me for my toddler just crying beside me. So first of all, I'll request for an auditory evaluation, since I have currently 4 evaluators with me. That is Toastmaster Iram Hanan. She will speak on auditory. Toastmaster Talha bin Hamid on visual. For perceptibles, Toastmaster Sritaj Singh, and structural and language, DTM Sarfaraz. So first of all, I will request Toastmaster Iram Hanan for an auditory evaluation.
Audio was perfect. In the middle, I realized little bit there was distractions, but overall, I would suggest to have variations in the voice quality. I felt that it was little bit monotonous, and other than this, there was no technical issues in the auditory system, and everything it seems like it is quite perfect for me. Over to you, DTM Abrar.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Iram. For visual evaluation, now I will request DTM Talha bin Hamid. The stage is yours, DTM Talha.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anna. I think visually it would have helped if you were in the landscape mode, first of all, and secondly, the background had been a little less busy, but nothing major because we could see and hear you clearly. We could see your gestures clearly, so it's not a deal breaker. Perhaps a little bit of movement would have been welcome, especially when you were describing your various phases of your journey. Perhaps a little bit of movement and gestures would have been welcome. But that said, let me also add that your facial expressions jive perfectly with your voice and with your words. So that took up a lot of the slack that was missing due to body movement. I think your facial expressions and vocal expressions made up for a lot of it. So thank you, and over to you, DTM Abrar.
Thank you very much, DTM Talha bin Hamid. Let's move towards the perceptible evaluation, and for that, I will request Toastmaster Srijita Singh.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Abrar. I am so glad to finally see Toastmaster Anam in action after watching her at the Champion Symphony panel. Very glad to be here, Toastmaster Anam, and I loved the speech and the relatability and the authenticity that you brought to the fore when you mentioned your challenges and you mentioned how you thought humor was an atomic bomb that you couldn't fit in a small box. It was very relatable, and then you moved on to your lessons. Very well done. My tips for increasing the impact of the speech would be: 1, eye contact. For a lot of the time, we noticed that your eyes were on the screen. I would suggest having them on the camera, if some way or the other. Like pasting googly eyes next to your laptop camera is one way you can do this. Next is when you were talking about engaging humor, I was looking for some humor and some tips to building that humor, because that is one of the key takeaways of that path, and that would have made it so much more impactful, because that makes us see you in action, right? Your jokes, your funniness, and things like that. That is all from my side, and very well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Sujita Singh. Now I will request for the language evaluation DTM Sarfaraz Nazir.
Thank you, Mr. Lead Evaluator, DTM Abrar Wani, fellow Toastmasters, and especially you, Toastmaster Anam Qadri. I've been given a chance after a long time to listen to you deliver a speech. I like the structure of your presentation. You started by telling us that very few people have the natural ability to use humor. Most of us struggle with that, and that you all were one of those persons who struggle. And then you went on to tell us about your journey through the engaging humor pathway, why you selected it, and what happened, and went on to talk about your high performance leadership project, and ended by bringing to the close by saying, this is who I am right now. So it was well laid out. I could follow what you were saying, and there were a few mistakes, but the good thing is that you corrected them within your speech. For example, one time you said during that time, and you immediately changed it by that time. And another place you said a lot of a speech, and you corrected immediately by saying a lot of speeches, went from singular to plural. So from a grammar point of view, I don't have much to say, that you were already making your corrections during the speech. And as was suggested just now, I was just the same thing. What I was missing was the humor, since you were telling us your journey, having difficulty using humor to going. So I didn't see any humor. Giving us example where bad humor, and then how you corrected it within your speeches as you move forward in this pathway. And so that's the only thing that's lacking, that has already been mentioned, since the project or pathway was humor. Maybe you didn't want us to know how good you are now in using humor. You're waiting to give another speech which will be full of humor, perhaps for the humorous speech contest. You're saving it. Back to you, Mr. Lead Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster DTM Sarfaraz Nazir. Well, DTM Talha Navid, now I will have 2 minutes or what? 2 minutes.
Yeah, the usual.
Thank
2
you.
to 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Anam Qadri. What a great speech we have witnessed today, in which you are telling about yourself, that how your pathway went and how you overcome from the icebreaker till the level where you actually involve yourself into a panel discussion. Well, DTM Talha bin Hamid, as far as the overall content of your speech is concerned, the first thing which we learned from your speech is the confidence you wanted to give to the individual who are listening to you, that, well, you can also do it. If a person serious nature like you can do that, then everyone can do. So this is a very nice message I have perceived from your overall speech. But I will talk about some points of improvement, because I will immediately come towards those points. And I would like to highlight, though most of the points were already highlighted by most of the evaluators, but I would like to add 2 to 3 points that can literally add value within your speech, and that is the rhythm. You spoke very fluently, but the one thing that I'm finding you could add within your speech is the rhythm. For example, when you were talking about too many things, for example, when you said all the family members, it was like you were saying that all the family members. If you will say it that all the family members, and then when you're talking about my workplace, so these kind of elements, while emphasizing and pushing some stresses on the statement, and then bring variation within your voice, that can bring variation and that can add. The second thing I would like to recommend, since you are representing a speech in which you are reflecting on your pathway, and that is about the humor. I would love to see a humor in next speeches if you deliver such kind of speeches. And how you can do that? Well, for example, you had some throat issue while consistently you're delivering speech. You can use that as an element of humor. For example, by this you can also clean your thought, making a poker face in front of the camera. This will add humor automatically. And the second thing, how you can add humor while speaking naturally, just create some facial expression, talking all the family members. So these kind of elements can literally add value when you're talking about a humorous. Overall, when I will talk about the overall evaluation with respect to this speech that you have presented today, hats off to you for completing your pathway. And well, one last recommendation, how great it could be if you could change that title of the speech instead of "Who am I right now?" How humorous I can be right now. So it will be more engaging with respect to presenting your ideas into a speech. Great delivery, a great addition of the information that can literally put the confidence up. Add some rhythm within your voice. Also work on some facial expression while talking. Something humorous can really add value within your speech. Keep delivering some nice speeches in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DTM Abrar. And now, Toastmaster Anam, we need your feedback on the feedback.
Thank you so much, DTM Talha. Well, now I'm thinking that yes, they all were right, and I didn't realize that I should have included it. It's not on purpose. Trust me, it's not on purpose. I really want everyone to learn as well what I learned during my pathways. And thank you so much, TM Abrar Wani. Yes, I'll try my best to incorporate this aspect in my next speech as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your evaluations. TM Iram, TM Srijita, TM Sarfaraz, and DTM Thala. Thank you so much for all your evaluations. They were equally valuable for me.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anam. And you'll get a chance very soon to pay us all back by being the lead evaluator in the next project. So first of all, about humor, yes, it does not come easily to most of us, and one has to cultivate it. And for that to happen, one has to go out of a comfort zone. During your speech, Toastmaster Anam, I think one could also sense that you, being a teacher, your first priority was to convey all your learnings rather than convey the skills that you had learned, but all your learnings. And one thing that I found very valuable was the sources of humor, because whenever we are asked, many people approach us, if there's a time to write a humorous speech, what should be the source of humor? And of course, DTM Abrar Wani is one of our national champions. He was a national champion in 2023, and his main sources of humor, one of those sources has been his spouse. And thank God, DTM Iram is not here today. She's our current national public speaking champion, and her championship has been like, her speeches are the sole source of humor is her poor husband. So, and in-laws, of course. So, so sometimes it's good to struggle with humor because that way you keep family secrets safe and sound. So with that, I will move on now to our next project. Our next speaker is DTM Sarfaraz Nazir, and his evaluator will be Toastmaster Anand. DTM Sarfaraz will be speaking from Engaging Humor Level 1 Evaluation and Feedback, title The Math. So Toastmaster Anam, if you could take over from here, explain the project. And sorry, the panel evaluators are auditory will be done by Toastmaster Amra Yunus. Visual evaluator, our originally allotted visual evaluator was missing. So if someone would like to volunteer, perhaps DTM Irfan, if you could volunteer for that, the 1 minute visual evaluation, would that be okay?
I'm getting a signal problem constantly dropping. Today, my
Okay.
signals are very weak.
Okay, it's all right. So perhaps, perhaps Toastmaster Aaron. Yeah, sure. So you would be the visual evaluator and you will be covering the visual aspects of the speech. Perceptible will be done by myself, and language, structural language will be done by Toastmaster Srijita. So that is the evaluation panel. I'll also note it down on the chat box. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, DTM Talha. DTM Sarfaraz will be appearing for his evaluation and feedback first speech. He will be delivering his first speech of evaluation and feedback. The time limit for this speech is 5 to 7 minutes. The purpose of this speech is to practice applying feedback and serve as a speech evaluator during the club meetings, and for the member to present a speech and receive feedback from the evaluator. So this is supposed to be his first speech. On the basis of this evaluation, he will be delivering his next. Thank you so much. Over to you, DTM Talha. Shall I report it back to you, or should I hand it over to DTM Sarfaraz?
You should announce the project name, speech title. Or okay, I'll do it because I think I have. Yeah, so everyone put your hands together for DTM Sarfaraz. The math DTM Sarfaraz.
DTM Talha, before I begin my speech, just want to point that out, that my plan is to stand and deliver the speech, which I do, even though sometimes the evaluator said, well, were you sitting or standing? Then I have to tell them, yes, I was standing. So this time I'm sitting. I've been having some equipment problems, especially with the lighting, since it's past midnight now. And I tried and it didn't work. So I instead of spending more time on trying to fix them, so I'm going to go sit there. But in reality, it will be delivered in person. And those who are evaluating this speech, and sometimes in the future, will be part of a humorous speech contest, since that's why it's from the Engaging Humor. And so I'm now ready to begin.
Okay, sure, sir. The only person who made it his life's mission to ensure that everybody was standing is thankfully not in the meeting today. So you can move ahead. We won't mind.
When you have a heart problem, you see a cardiologist. When you have a toothache, you visit a dentist. When you seek financial advice, who do you turn to? A fortune teller, a palm reader, or a financial guru? And if a financial expert gives you advice for free, would you really take it? Well, I did. And here's what happened. Fellow Toastmasters, let me share with you 3 adventures from my saga with financial advice. It was not an efficacious situation. 2 decades ago, I embarked on a journey of buying a new car with a 5-year auto loan. Each month, I received an invoice from the bank for my payment. I would write a check and mail it like clockwork. One day, I was watching cat videos on TikTok. I stumbled upon a video by a financial wizard. The guru said, when you receive your bills or invoices, do you mail your payment right away? If you do, don't. It's your money. Hold on to it. Let it stay in your savings account so you can earn interest. I thought, well, he's a financial expert. Makes sense. A few weeks later, when I received an invoice for my monthly payment, I wrote a check, put it in the envelope, but instead of mailing it, I tossed it on the back seat of my car, thinking in a few weeks, I'll mail it. A few days later, I tossed some papers on the back seat and they landed on top of that envelope. About a month later, I was cleaning my car and I discovered that envelope with the check still sitting on the seat. I mailed it. The following month, when I received the invoice, there was an additional $20 late fee. Well, when I looked at my account, I saved 20 cents on interest by holding that money for a few days. And it cost me $20 extra. The math doesn't add up. Well, since the advice was free, you get what you pay for. A few months later, while watching Toastmasters videos on YouTube, a video popped up on the right side of my monitor. I clicked on it and I encountered another financial expert. This expert was giving advice on saving money on car insurance. He said, if your deductible is $500, increase it to $1,000. That will lower your premium. I thought, oh, that makes sense. The next day, I called my insurance agent. Please increase my deductible to $1,000. What I did not know was, by raising the deductible from $500 to $1,000, it did not make an impact on the total premium, just a portion of the premium. As a result, I saved $10 a month. One Friday night, I was driving. It was late. It was raining. I hit a pothole. The tire burst. The car shook. The airbags deployed. The car was damaged. So it went into the shop for repairs. The insurance company paid for the repairs except for my $1,000 deductible. Fellow Toastmasters, I saved about $10 by increasing my deductible, but it cost me $500 extra. Instead of paying $500, I was paying $1,000. The math doesn't add up. But again, it was free advice. I took it. What else could I expect? There's a saying that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think I'll stop watching videos on YouTube and TikTok. There are other less expensive ways these experts can lead you astray. Several years ago, I discovered a corporation performing exceptionally well. I thought, I have a little extra money. So I bought a few stocks in that company. In 1 year, its stock went high as 32% in. That's not a bad investment, 32% increase in 1 year. One day I received an invitation from a wealth management company telling me to come in for free financial advice at no cost to me. I thought, well, I'll go and see them. They talked to me, and while I was talking to them, when I told them that I have a stock in just one company for a few dollars, they said, oh, that's too risky. You're not supposed to have stocks in just one company. You should diversify. Well, thinking these are the experts, I should diversify. So they gave me a list of 5 companies that I should buy my stock, sell what I have, and spread out my money into 5 different stocks. I did that. What happened a year later? I only made 8%. Now, on my own, I made 32%. Listening to these experts, I made only 8%. Once again, the math does not add up. But fellow Toastmasters, the next time you seek financial advice, remember, the experts may mean well, but their advice is not always golden. Trust your own instincts, do your research, and take control of your own financial destiny. After all, no one knows more about your money than you do. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, DTM Sarfraz, for single-handedly ending the careers of chartered accountants around the world. Now, I'll hand over the session to our lead evaluator, Toastmaster Anam Khan.
Thank you so much, DTM Talha. For auditory evaluation, I would like to invite Toastmaster Amra Yunus to please give her report. Over to you, Toastmaster Amra Yunus.
Thank you so much, PM Anam. Well, this is always very learning when we listen to DTM Sarfraz, of course, but I've been given this task to evaluate his auditory. So from very beginning of his speech, he engaged us with the situation and a few questions, and he, he used his tone and the inflection of his voice to more, to engage us more in his questions. So there are many, places where he raised the pitch of his voice to make the point more powerful. Like when he said, "Who do you turn to?" So it was there very vivid in his voice. When he said, "as high," kind of things. So it was going very well when he was, going towards between the lines and lines and lines. So that was, of course, very amazing. Just one thing I would comment for improvement that could bring little more. DTM Sarfraz is very, skilled at using the words, and so I think if he increases the pauses when he transition from one, concept to another one, it will, be more powerful, and the pace at times, I feel that it could be improved as well. So thank you so much. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Amra. For visual evaluation, I would like to call Toastmaster Iram Hanan to please present her report. Toastmaster Iram Hanan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anam Kadri. I really appreciate the confidence level, and I can observe a clear image, and it seems like that he is just speaking to me in person. The visual image was quite perfect. The eye contact was at its peak with the audience. Along with this, I would say the expressions were quite natural and engaging as well. Overall, I felt that a visual can be a little bit improved. For example, you mentioned the quantifiable figures like the $10 or the $20. So it can be connected with the hand gestures to enhance the message more appropriately. Like for the $20, we can have the figures in our fingers, or we can showcase it so that we can grab the audience attention. That's the overall report. Thank you so much, and back to the TM Anam Kadri.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Iram Hanan. For perceptible evaluation, I would like to call DTM Talha. DTM Talha, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Toastmaster Anna. So in terms of perception of your speech, DTM Sarfraz, first of all, it succeeded as a humorous speech because it succeeded to create humor, and it had the best kind of humor, which was self-deprecating humor. At the same time, I believe that if I were not into accountancy, perhaps, or not into investment, it would have been a little bit harder to relate to. So perhaps you could make a little of the terms and the situations easier to understand, and perhaps use a little more, for the lack of a better word, a little more dumbed down language, so that it has more universal appeal, especially the humor in your speech. I know that you made a great deal of effort because what you were actually describing was really technical stuff, the diversification of portfolio and investing in multiple securities. But perhaps by using maybe idioms or similes, uh, for example, you could have used that not putting your eggs in one basket. You could have used that example as an example for diversification. So that would be my only perceptible feedback. Otherwise, the speech was very impactful, and yes, it succeeded as a human speech. Over to you, lead evaluator.
Thank you so much, DTM Talha. For structural and language evaluation, I would like to call Toastmaster Srijita Singh. Over to you, Toastmaster Srijita Singh.
Thank you so much, lead evaluator, and thank you so much, DTM Sarfaraz, for that speech. It was lovely listening to so many lessons, very sharp lessons, and the self-punching and the you get what you pay for are going to be things that stick with me, because to know what we're doing was one key lesson that I'm taking away. And as far as the language and structure are concerned, I have 2 points. One, with the structure of the speech overall was perfectly done, 3 parts, clear conclusion. I have a point about the start. Because it's a humorous speech, you could start with a dialogue that creates an irony or a kind of hints at the situations that are going to come about in the speech, that the kind of humor that we're about to see. And the second point that I have is that the punchlines could be briefer, as in, for example, when there's a larger number of words in a certain humorous line, there's a kind of sadness that can come in because it was self-deprecating, and we could feel, oh, there was a loss of $500, or like, instead there could be a sharp irony, like, I saved 10, sacrificed 1,000. That kind of pitches up the humor and raises it without actually amplifying the loss, the feeling of the loss. So that is all from my side, and thank you so much. Looking forward to your further speeches.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Srijita. Now, as for my evaluation is concerned, DTM Sarfaraz, how do you do that? You started off with a strong choice of statements, and then you dealt with them. You connected them with your speech, because initially you had already stated that it was supposed to be a humorous speech, and the choices that you gave, how you blended them in with your speech, that was marvelous. I really liked it. It was a very good there was a very good vocal variety, very good expressions. Obviously, you are best at that, best at giving expressions, the facial expressions, the vocal expressions. The message was there. And while I was so engrossed in listening to your speech, I tried all my efforts to look for any shortcomings that were there. And DTM Sarfaraz, for the 3/4 part of it, I couldn't find any. Until, alas, I found one. And that was just that your screen size was so small that we didn't realize that the expressions that you were giving through your hands were not that visible. Half of them were cutting off outside due to the boundaries of your screen, and half of them were showing here. So until and unless you were not showing your hands right in front of your face or somewhere nearby, we couldn't view them. But then your speech was so engaging that initially I couldn't point it out that there was something missing in there. Thank you so much for a wonderful speech, DTM Sarfaraz. Hope to hear from you very soon, again and again. Thank you so much. Over to you, DTM Talha.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anam. And now it's time for DTM Sarfaraz's feedback on the feedback.
Thank you, DTM Talha bin Hamid, and thank you, Toastmaster Anam Qadri, and the rest of the panel. I agree what was said. The delivery would have more energy in it if I were to give the speech while standing. So Anam Qadri, I'll request her that she needs to attend meetings of Karachi Toastmasters Club so she can see the expressions that she said she couldn't see because I'll be delivering. So, and the difference is, which I did not mention it, it is now 1:35 in the morning. It's very difficult to give a speech, if it's that maybe morning time or evening, not at night. But I do agree. So the tips that I've been given, especially adding some humor up front and stressing on certain points. So I appreciate that. Back to you, Toastmaster DTM Talha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, DTM Sarfraz. What a round of speeches that we've had. Now I'll be floating a couple of polls for the best speaker, best evaluator, and best modular evaluator. Please cast your votes. And in the meantime, let me share a very interesting incident. As Toastmaster Anna mentioned, the icebreaker for this particular path. Sometimes you don't think much of a speech, but it makes a great impact onto the audience. And that was one of the speeches. The icebreaker, which appeared very simple and very straightforward, but it won Best Speaker Award at the Karachi Toastmasters Club meeting. And then we advised her to enroll into the international speech contest. And she said that, I'm not prepared, don't have any speech, don't have any contest worthy speech. So we advised her that, just fashion this icebreaker into your contest speech. And the next thing you know, she went on to win the international speech contest, and her video got entered into the video speech contest, and she ended up winning the second prize for the second year in a row. So my message to everyone is that don't think less of anything that you create, anything that you write. At least have another pair of eyes look at it. Even if you don't think much of it, it may turn out to be very valuable. So I'll be floating best speakers poll is done. I'll be floating the best evaluator. And meanwhile, I will take this opportunity to introduce our next segment, which is the table topics session. And our table topics master, okay, I see your face. So we are supposed to have the geek of the week first. So I'll briefly touch upon something very interesting. And it's also very depressing because these movies that I'm going to talk about today came out in 1998. And to think about that, I was already 20 years old, 27 years ago. I mean, honestly, what could be more depressing than that? Anyhow, so there's a very good, very interesting background to these two movies. These two movies are Armageddon and Deep Impact, and both concern the same subject matter, which is an asteroid that's about to hit Earth. So these two movies came out within 2 months of each other. And on the left, Armageddon was a big budget blockbuster. You can see Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler. For those of you who are not ancient like me, yes, they were big stars in their time. And now, on the right, Deep Impact featured Morgan Freeman, of course. Morgan Freeman is one celebrity who's recognized by people of all ages, and a couple of other actors. What's interesting about it is that these two movies came out within 2 months of each other, and they were the result of the same gestation process. In Hollywood, it's sometimes called development hell, where a concept gets shopped around to different studios, and it remains languishing. Sometimes it gets rejected, sometimes the studio sits on it, and sometimes when the concept is brought to a studio, it sits on it, then it gets taken to another studio, and they also start working on it. And this is something that happened with these two movies. So the result was that these two movies came out within 2 months of each other, and they both had the same themes. What's very interesting about these two movies is that they both have very different flavors. Deep Impact is more concerned about the impact on humans of impending doom, right? What would it do to humanity, the relationships, the you know the various equations that we have with our friends, with our colleagues, with our families? What would it do to them? And Armageddon was all around action blockbuster. It was more concerned about how the hero, who used to be, of all the things, a master driller, he was selected to lead a team of astronauts and lead a team of professionals to land on the asteroid and try to drill nuclear warheads into it in order to destroy it. So, in Deep Impact, some weapons were targeted at the asteroids in the hopes that they will split. In Armageddon, a team was sent to the asteroid itself to land on it. And again, both, you can even tell from the posters that these two were very different movies, but very similar concepts. The most interesting part is the Deep Impact. Uh, it was a pioneer movie among this pair, and it was actually based on a story by Arthur C. Clarke, a novel by Arthur C. Clarke. Although it got changed so much that Arthur C. Clarke was not given any credit for the film. However, it was based on the same concept, and Armageddon then again was derived from the concept that also gave birth to Deep Impact. So the takeaway from today is that if you want to have a good time, both these movies are excellent. But if I were to recommend one of them, it would be Deep Impact because, uh, we are not in a very dissimilar situation right now. The climate change, the impending sense of doom and gloom, um, the crazy weather, the crazy things that are happening around the world, whether they are climactic or scientific or political. Um, there's an impending sense of doom and the end of the world, right? Um, and the way we are so polarized, and all that is shown very well in Deep Impact. So, if you wish to have a good time this weekend, and if you wish to have some food for thought as well, uh, about what would you do if the world was actually ending within a few hours, then I would really recommend watching Deep Impact. And that brings me back to the Toastmaster and on to our table topic session. Um, Toastmaster Srijita Singh is a lot of things, and she became one more thing yesterday. About 18 hours ago, she was crowned the winner of International Speech Contest of Worldwide Toastmasters. So congratulations, Srijita. And uh, good news, bad news for entire District 122, because if you thought that Srijita would have her home club somewhere in India, no, her home club is Worldwide, and that means her video will get submitted to the video speech contest. And do the math. Speakers from other clubs, including Quantum Leap, you have some stiff competition. So without further ado, over to you, Toastmaster Srijita.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much. And I'm so glad to be here and to conduct this segment. And I have some really interesting topics in store for all of you. To introduce the segment, the table topics segment is supposed to be about impromptu speaking. So you get a topic, and on the spot, you're supposed to speak from 1 to 2 minutes with a 30-second grace period. If you speak less than 1 minute, unfortunately, you get disqualified. So I would recommend speaking whatever that's coming to your mind so that at least you qualify. And just as a start off, I have 3 tips for everyone who's going to come up on stage to speak. The first one would be to take around 10 seconds to collect your thoughts and center yourself before you start speaking, because the timer only starts when you start speaking. The next one is the moment you hear the topic, you could ask yourself, 1, what do I know about this? And 2, which side do I take? or what do I believe about this, which immediately gives you a slew of thoughts and a significant amount of fodder to be able to talk about something. And the structure comes later, but at least you can speak. The third point that I have is that you could add in an anecdote or a personal story, which is what makes any speech relatable or immediately connects to the audience that you're talking to. It could be a small thing, any mention about your life, something that you experienced, and that should do the job. Now, let's begin.
Sorry, Toastmaster
Yes.
Srijata. At Quantum
Yes.
Leap, table topics also have an additional wrinkle, which is that
Yes.
once you're done speaking, the next speaker would first evaluate the previous speaker for 30 seconds.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they are assigned their topic, and the last speaker will evaluate the first speaker.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you. I didn't know that was like a usual thing that happens every single time. That's lovely to hear. And let's begin. Who would like to be the first speaker? Toastmaster Faizan, would you like to take up the stage?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yes.
A pro tip, Srijata, don't ask, just sign.
Being polite.
Thank you for your politeness.
Toastmaster Faizan, work done as soon as possible or as well as possible? Work done as soon as possible or as well as possible? Toastmaster Faizan.
You know, in your daily life, when we talk about work, there are certain things we need to keep in mind. And when we talk about work done as soon as possible and work done as well. So both things at the same time, in my point of view, is important, because when we talk about the work, it's also prioritizing something. There are few things in your life, few work which you cannot do as soon as possible, but there are few you need to do it as soon as possible, and at the same time the efficacy should not be compromised as well. So both things are important. So that means it will be depending upon the type of work, and it will be depending upon your prioritization also, and ultimately you will be able to decide that which work should be done as soon as possible. You know, I will give you an example. If my wife is saying something, that means I need to do it as soon as possible. Otherwise, we know the consequences. Those who are married, they can well connect with that. So that's the important thing. At the same time, but if you are doing some work professionally, you are not only have to do it as soon as possible, but you have to be, you know, maintain the efficacy of that project as well. So in my point of view, overall both things are important. They go side by side depending upon the type of work, depending upon the person who is giving you the work. So that's important, and ultimately that will give you a very good idea. And by all means, the work should be done as soon as possible, and the quality should not also be compromised. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your balanced take, Toastmaster Faizan. Moving on to our next volunteer. May I have a raise of hands? Nobody?
Being polite.
Sorry. Toastmaster Farhan? I guess they stepped away. Toastmaster Anam?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. I have a topic for you that is very special to me, and it is a line from a poem by Jane Hirshfield, and it's a paraphrasing of that line because the line is very long. But here we go. Toastmaster Anam, so much grief and such little joy, and still the scales balance. So much grief and such little joy, and still the scales balance. Toastmaster Anam.
Back in the year 2022, when I lost my mother, I thought that the world had tumbled down all in front of me. But then, that was the same year when I got the tidings of my winning the international speech contest. First instinct, obviously, was that I missed her. I wanted these tidings to be given to her, and I did in my dreams, and I hope that it reached to her. But then the next thing that came was that my kid scored a position in his academics as well the same year. So no doubt the tidings were very sad in the beginning, and the year started up with on a sad note. But then the year, as it picked up the pace, it turned out to be very eventful as regarding to good news as well. So yes, there are bad news, and there are always some divine tidings that lead to the good news as well. It's always a balance between the two. It's totally up to you how you take them, how you absorb them, and how you present those scenarios in front of you. Whether you will try to take it on the sad note and be saddened all the year, all your life, or you pick up a good pace from the positive ones and move on with positive vibes, with achievements, and with a determination to move ahead, together with the lost ones as well, and together with the new ones as well. Life will throw you a lot of hurdles. Life will throw you a lot of tidings of all shades. It's totally up to you how you decipher them and how you use them to boost up your strength, your energy, and your mood swings. Thank you so much. Over to you, Srijita Singh.
You are muted, Sarjita. Your mic is on mute.
Yeah, you will.
So sorry about that. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anam, for sharing so vulnerably and so beautifully. That was very well put. Unfortunately, I had forgotten to ask you to evaluate Toastmaster Faizan. Now, I would like to request you to please share a 30-second evaluation of his table topic speech.
All right, thank you so much. Toastmaster Faizan was very confident. He had the content ready with him, and that is a true accomplishment when you're talking about extempore speaking, impromptu speaking, in fact. He had the expressions. He had a little bit of vocal variety, but then a little more encapsulation of meaningful pauses in your speech would have added the impact that your speech was giving. Overall, it was a really, considering that it was an impromptu speech, it was a really confident effort, a very expressful effort, and hats off to you. Wish you all the best for the future. That's it. Over to you, Toastmaster Srijita.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Anam, for that evaluation. Moving ahead to our next volunteer, or in this case, it has become cold calls. So I think I have to make another cold call. Oh, yes, Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Abrar. Yes. Thank you so much for volunteering. I have a very good topic for you. PTM Abrar.
Sorry, ask him to evaluate first.
Oh, yes. Yes, so Toastmaster Abrar, and
Thank you
evaluation.
very much, Toastmaster Anil Qadri. How well and beautifully you have presented your idea, starting a speech with an anecdote with the sad demise of your mother, and then later on a news that actually recovering up from a situation that actually holding yourself down. That's a beautiful depiction of a table topic in a very small time, and then ending with a nice, beautiful message, a takeaway message for all the audience. The only thing I would recommend that address the topic well, because topic was more grievances and little joy, and then there is a balance. So if that topic could have been addressed, that how large that grievance and the sad demise of my mother was, and how that little joy addressed that big grievance of your life would have been a better way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that feedback, DTM Abrar. Moving ahead to your topic, DTM Abrar, attack is the best form of defense. Attack is the best form of defense, DTM Abrar.
Thank you very much, Toastmasters Vijay Singh. Attack is the best form of defense. I can recall a very beautiful event that actually happened with me when I was in my college life. There was a political movement running on, and they were pushing me in every day to come out in a procession and support them. And all this situation was doing nothing but actually affecting my education. I was quite, not that big-hearted person. I was not able to say them no, because I believe that they could affect my presence within the college, and they can literally affect my classes as well. So all the time when they come into the class and they was asking me, come abroad with us, come abroad with us, and all the time I always go with them. I was always defensive instead of attacking them and saying them no. Well, my dear Toastmaster fellows and distinguished guests, the first semester came. And well, the result was devastating, which actually gave my realization that if I will not able to say them no, I will not counterattack their persuasion to come in the procession, I will not be able to conclude myself well at the end of the examination. That pushed me hard, not from only inside myself, but from my family as well. The next day, after that, there was a big movement happening in the Gordon College. And that time, when the student came in to took all the class with them, I stood up and I persuaded all the class that don't affect your education. And you know what happened? They started pulling me down. Well, Abrar, you cannot do that. If you don't want to go, don't go, but you cannot force any other. I said, no, you are forcing them. So if all the students will continually go with them, remember, you will have a devastating results that I had in the recent semesters. Ultimately, very soon, the teacher came up again, and well, that procession was cancelled. So conclusively, I can say, attack is the best form of defense. Over to you.
Very well done. Brilliantly tackled, Sabrar. Very well done. Who would like to be our next table topic speaker? DTM Irfan, are you there? I guess they stepped away. Toastmaster Amra, would you like to try?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Balancing.
Evaluation
I'm so
first.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not.
It's all right.
I'm just getting used to this. Please evaluate DTM Abrar's speech.
Thank you so much. Well, DTM Abrar took the topic very beautifully, and he started and he narrated the story around it. But I like as well that he used all the skills and tactics at the best level that are necessary for telling a story with its expression, with its vocal variety, and with necessary pauses. So that was what actually very good in his speech. Over to you. Good topic.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Amra. Is it possible we can hear your voice a little louder?
Am I audible
Yeah.
now?
Yes,
Oh, much
perfectly
better.
audible.
Much better. Infinitely better. So your topic is balancing quantity and quality. Balancing quantity and quality, Toastmaster Amra.
Yes. Quantity versus quality. So very, very relatable to me. Personally, I am the one who wants to take up the challenges to grow myself but I have noticed in myself that going towards this learning approach has made me vulnerable, that I start taking many things at a time, right? And that gives, adds to distractions as well. So lately I have started thinking and I've started planning that way, that I would take up one or two things that I want to upgrade in myself, say yes to few opportunities which are very much I know would make me go towards my goal, and put the things in it that way. So if I give you example, these days, along with my personal and professional responsibility, I am working on my speaking skills as well. So of course, this comes through reading books as well, because you need content to speak up. This comes with the talking to people as much as you can. I told myself that I keep reading, and I have read enough. I think I have the things, until unless I put up the things into practice by joining Toastmasters. Yesterday, I attended one of the events at Habib University with my broken leg in person, and participated in Human Library. Yeah, and that proved that if I go towards one skill, that is public speaking, rather than starting reading a lot of books again, it would be more adding value to me. So thank you so much, Sajita. Over to you. Thank you.
Well done, Toastmaster Amra. Thank you so much for sharing your personal experience as well. Toastmaster Tara, do we have time for another table topic?
No, I think we should end now. It's already time.
Would you like to take a topic? Would you like to?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. What can I say now?
Thank you. So please evaluate Toastmaster.
Yeah, of all the people now you remember to ask me to
Yes.
evaluate, right?
Yes. Learned my lesson.
Okay. Toastmaster Amra, I think you addressed your topic very well. And I think the best part is when a table topic speaker manages to bring a real life experience into the speech. It's not always easy. And sometimes you're just hunting for things or themes or events that might relate to the theme. But you brought one in very readily, and it spiked our curiosity. The only improvement area I would suggest would be that if you had explained a little bit what the Human Library event was, just in one line, that would have added to our understanding. But overall, very well attempted. You are very light and quick on your feet as far as speaking is concerned, and I think that is one of your strengths. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that evaluation. Coming to your topic, backward planning or forward planning? Backward planning or forward planning, DTM Tara?
Thank you so much. Backward planning or forward planning? How about no planning? Because I don't believe in planning. To tell you the truth, ladies and gentlemen, I happen to be a very lazy person. And for me, planning is an excuse to delay. And if you look at most of the workings of various institutions, especially government institutions in the subcontinent, you will see that planning for them is an excuse to just sit on funds or keep consuming funds and get the projects delayed. And by the time the planning actually comes to the execution phase, the cost of the project has doubled and the utility of the project has halved. So, if I apply that to my real life, I believe in jumping in first and thinking later. Those who have worked with me know this for a fact that I'm not the one to spend long hours planning. And yes, that's why I also make a lot of mistakes, a lot of really stupid errors. But I believe that if one is fast enough, if one is in that zone, it is easy to correct errors and move on. And moving fast and making errors and then correcting them is better because it means progress. Whereas if one can just sit, planning and contemplating, we all have been through that, right? Sometimes when we are planning our next project in Toastmasters, one can overthink it. One can chicken out of making a speech or entering a contest. Imagine, Srijita, if we had thought too much about entering the contest and if we thought too much about the odds of you winning or the quality of the contestants, perhaps you would have felt a great deal of fear. But I believe that sometimes, especially for a person like me, planning is the enemy of progress. Think of that what you will, but for me, that is a reality. Over to you, Table Topics Master.
Wow, you turned it on its head, like right on.
Yeah.
And I think I should have given you the first topic, work done as well as possible or as soon as possible. But yeah. Now I would like to request Toastmaster Faizan to evaluate Toastmaster Faizan.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's very difficult to just a minute. It's very difficult to evaluate Sir Talha because I'm just new into Toastmaster. It's been like very little time, so I'm not the right person to evaluate Sir. But overall, what I have seen, that it was wonderful. The example he has given, and overall that was relatable also. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your feedback, Toastmaster Faizan. This has been a brilliant session, and I'm very happy with the way it went and how every single participant spoke with their hearts and shared whatever they had. And looking forward to all of your speeches. You're all doing very well. All the best, and I would like to hand over to our Toastmaster today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Srijita. What a table topic session we had today. Great topics and the way they were attempted. Thank you so much for that. And without further ado, I'd like to move on to the journal evaluation. And we don't have our journal evaluator in the meeting today. So what I'll be doing instead is just first we take the grammarian's report, and then I'll ask each one of you, not everyone except myself, because I'm the president, I made the agenda, I'm the TMOD. It will be a clear conflict of interest if I comment on the meeting. So, without further ado, Toastmaster Amra Yunus, your report as language development.
Yes. So, if we start from the keynote, I found the language use very well done by TM Iram. Yeah. It's very, she used the technical language as well, but it was very much understandable to the people who are not very much into project management. So I would congratulate her for this. When we go ahead for the prepared speeches and the whole session, we would see, yeah, efficacious was not used even by me when I was doing. I just had it later on. Um, uh, Efficacy was used with, I think, by Abrar.
Dr. Faizan used it.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
I think one of us used efficacy, but not efficacious was not there. And it happens, the when you start speaking, the word is not on the radar. If we talk about the language structure more and about the other, so I feel I'm very much toddler in it, and rest of the people go very well. So over to you, DTM Tala. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Toastmaster Amra, for that grammarian's report. And now I'll ask, okay, how about asking DTM Irfan, are you there? Okay, DTM Irfan had, of course, connectivity issues. So since DTM Abrar also had too many speaking roles during the meeting, I would ask, okay, how about asking Dr. Faizan, your evaluation of the meeting as a whole? Although he's not a Toastmaster, but I think his observations will be very useful. So, Dr. Faizan, over to you.
Yes, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. It's been like almost I have attended 10 meetings of Toastmaster. I joined LUMS Energy Institute. Then I also joined Social Vocalist in Lahore, and then I'm so lucky to join you people, where I'm learning a lot. Overall, the good things in this club and today's meeting was that meeting always they are starting on time. This is one thing we're lacking in Lahore. The time is very important, and when it comes to the agenda and all the roles they are assigned perfectly. What we are lacking over here, that most of the people they are not aware of their roles, and that took more time. Ultimately, we need to finish in time. That's important. This is one thing that we are best at. Then the experienced person, this is what I love, that a bunch of experience and most experienced people, when they are giving you feedback, you learn more. That's important. I'm not saying everybody feedback is important, but when you have professionals, when you have those people who have won something, who have done something in their life, that made an impact to other people who are new like me. So I am learning because of this also. So as a whole, the meeting went very well. The time was perfect, the agenda was very perfectly in place, and everybody knew their role. And thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faizan. Thank God you're not a Toastmaster member. Otherwise, you would have felt free to point out many improvement areas. But we sincerely appreciate your participation, because your participation brought energy and insightfulness to the meeting. We'd like for you, of course, ideally, we'd like you to be a member, but even if you
Inshallah.
feel free to participate in the meetings. And
Inshallah. Thank you
of
so
course,
much.
Toastmaster Srijita, your participation was beyond valuable, not only as a panel evaluator, but also as a table topics master. I'd also like to make a special note of Toastmaster Anand Qadri and DTM Sarfraz taking up the speaking slot and delivering great speeches, DTM Abrar Wani taking up evaluation on the spot, and of course, so many other roles. You managed to evaluate Toastmaster Anand Qadri twice in the meeting. So that's something only possible within Quantum Leap. So great job on that. And Toastmaster Iram has left the meeting, but I'd like to recognize her for her absolutely amazing keynote, because yes, without us really noticing it, she delivered something very technical in very easy to understand words. And that shows her skill as a trainer. Toastmaster Amra, thank you for taking out time on a Sunday morning and doing such a great job. And of course, DT and Irfan, who I suspect is a victim to connectivity issues today. Otherwise, he's always very vocal and very present. So thank you so much. It's always an honor to have you. Okay, just quickly announcing the results. Best speaker today goes to DTM Sarfraz. Best evaluator today goes to DTM Abrar Wani. Congratulations. Best modular evaluator goes to Toastmaster Srijita Singh. And best table topics, yeah, for some reason it goes to me. So thank you so much, everyone. And we also usually hold a poll for the best big three, but today we are not because only 2 role players were present. So thank you so much once again, and see you all next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Allah.
much. Allah
Thank you so
Hafiz.
much.